The cosmic underdog. The Galactic Federation wasn't known for its charity. When humanity finally achieved stable warp technology and petitioned for membership, the Federation's council chambers echoed with laughter. Humans were considered primitive, emotional, and unpredictable, barely worth the administrative paperwork their admission would require. But galactic law was clear. Any species that achieved independence faster than light travel earned the right to apply. Commander Elena Reyes stood before the Federation Council, her back straight despite the weight of humanity's hopes pressing down on her shoulders. The 7-foot-tall Vexari ambassador, Fulmach, leaned forward on his hovering platform, mandibles clicking in what Elena had learned was their species' equivalent of a condescending smirk. "The Federation welcomes Earth," Fulmach announced, his translator broadcasting the words across the vast chamber. "As is tradition, new members receive a vessel to serve in our peacekeeping fleet." Elena knew the traditions. She'd studied Federation law extensively during the 5-year journey to the Council homeworld. What she didn't expect was the eruption of chittering laughter from the assembled ambassadors when the holographic display revealed humanity's gift. The ship, if it could even be called that, was ancient. Its hull was a patchwork of mismatched metals, some sections visibly corroded. It resembled nothing so much as a space-faring junkyard, cobbled together from disparate technologies spanning several millennia. "The CSS 117, announced Fulmach, using the Federation's ship designation system, a historical curiosity. One of the earliest multi-species collaborative vessels. Non-functional for the past 3 centuries, but we've generously restored life support and basic propulsion." Elena maintained her diplomatic smile, though inside she seethed. This wasn't tradition, it was humiliation. The Federation had gifted impressive vessels to other emerging species. The avian Karaji had received a sleek scout ship. The hive-minded Zentari had been given a formidable defense platform. Humans got a rust bucket. "We are grateful for the Federation's generosity," Elena replied, the words tasting bitter. "Earth will prove worthy of your confidence." More laughter followed her out of the chamber. 3 days later, Elena stood in what was allegedly the command center of the CSS 117, surrounded by her hand-picked crew of Earth's finest engineers, scientists, and military personnel. The ship's systems hummed erratically, and the artificial gravity fluctuated with each step. "Tell me something good, Dr. Okoro," Elena said to her chief scientist, who was examining a panel of incomprehensible symbols and pulsing lights. Adana Okoro looked up from her handheld scanner with a puzzled expression. "This ship shouldn't be functional, Commander. The technologies are incompatible, like someone tried to merge quantum computing with steam engines." Lieutenant James Chen, their military engineer, tapped his boot against a floor panel that rang hollow. "It's worse than that. Some of these systems aren't connected to anything. They're just, here, decorative, or designed to fail," added Security Chief Nadia Volkov, her expression grim. "The Vexari have a reputation for these kinds of tests. They give impossible tasks to evaluate responses." Elena considered this. "Then we'll pass their test. If they expect us to fail, we'll do what humans have always done. Survive against the odds," offered Chen. "No," Elena replied with the first genuine smile since arriving at the Federation hub. "We'll take their trash and turn it into treasure." The next 2 months were an odyssey of frustration, innovation, and discovery. The CSS 117 was worse than initially assessed. Half its systems were incompatible with each other, a quarter were non-functional, and the remaining quarter operated on principles Earth scientists barely understood. But where alien technologies failed to cooperate, human ingenuity thrived. They stripped the ship down to its fundamentals, cataloging every component, every wire, every unusual material. When the ship's alien computer system proved indecipherable, they bypassed it with Earth technology. When the propulsion systems couldn't achieve stable warp, they reconfigured them for better sublight performance. It was during this exhaustive inventory that Dr. Okoro discovered something unusual in the ship's core, a device unlike anything they'd encountered before. "It's generating a field," she explained to Elena, gesturing to her readings. "Not electromagnetic, not gravitational, something else entirely." The device was small, about the size of a basketball, with a pulsing core of swirling energy contained within crystalline structures. It was connected to the ship's power systems, but appeared to be operating independently, drawing only minimal power. "What does it do?" Elena asked, peering at the device. "I'm not entirely sure," Adana admitted, "but it seems to be altering the physical constants within its field, slightly adjusting the strong nuclear force, the electromagnetic interaction strength. It's subtle, but it's happening." Elena frowned. "Is it dangerous?" "Not at this scale, but the technology. If we could understand it, replicate it, scale it up." Adana's eyes widened with possibilities. "Commander, this could be why they gave us this ship. They didn't think we'd notice this device, or if we did, they didn't think we could understand it." Over the following weeks, while the rest of the crew continued their overhaul of the ship's basic systems, Adana led a small team focused exclusively on the mysterious device. They dubbed it the Dimensional Resonance Engine, or DRE for short. Their breakthrough came when they connected the DRE to their Earth-designed computer systems. The alien technology responded to their inputs in ways they hadn't anticipated, expanding its field throughout portions of the ship. The effects were immediate and startling. Materials became stronger. Energy efficiency improved dramatically. The ship's ancient hull, once brittle and weak, now demonstrated resilience comparable to modern Federation vessels. "It's rewriting local physics," Adana explained during an excited briefing. "Not drastically, but enough to optimize the laws of nature in our favor." Elena saw the potential immediately. "Can we control where and how it applies these changes?" "We're learning to," Adana replied. "It's like, imagine having a computer that lets you adjust the source code of reality itself. Small adjustments, but in the right places." The ship's transformation accelerated. Systems that had been incompatible now worked in harmony, enhanced by the DRE's selective alterations of physical laws. The weapons systems, previously deemed beyond repair, became operational when the DRE adjusted the energy conversion ratios. The shields, once barely able to deflect space dust, now created localized space-time distortions that could potentially redirect even concentrated energy weapons. News of the humans' progress spread throughout the Federation hub. What had begun as a joke, the primitive species trying to make their garbage ship functional, evolved into something else. Alien engineers and scientists requested tours, ostensibly to offer assistance, but Elena recognized their growing curiosity and concern. 4 months after receiving the CSS-117, Elena's crew had transformed it into something unrecognizable. Though still bearing the scars of its age, the ship now hummed with power. Its systems, once disparate and conflicting, now operated in perfect synchronization under the influence of the DRE. The scheduled inspection by Federation officials was approaching, a formality before new members could officially join the peacekeeping fleet. Elena knew they had surpassed expectations, but she also sensed they had only scratched the surface of the ship's and the DRE's potential. "They underestimated us," Elena told her senior staff the night before the inspection. "They gave us their worst and expected us to fail, or at best, limp along as the fleet's laughingstock." "What happens when they realize what we've accomplished?" asked Chen. "When they understand what we've learned about the DRE?" Elena's expression hardened. "Then they'll learn what humans have always known. Never give someone your scraps unless you're prepared for them to build something magnificent from them." The next morning, as the Federation inspection team boarded the CSS-117, the ship's systems pulsed with energy, the DRE's field extending throughout its structure. The aliens' expressions shifted from condescension to confusion, then to barely concealed alarm as they witnessed what humanity had wrought from their cosmic hand-me-down. The rust bucket had become a revelation. The Universe Breakers. The Federation inspection team departed in stunned silence, their reports to the Council marked classified and urgent. Commander Elena Reyes had expected resistance, perhaps even attempts to reclaim the ship. What she didn't anticipate was the complete radio silence that followed. For 2 weeks, the CSS-117 remained docked at the Federation hub, its crew continuing their work while diplomatic channels remained eerily quiet. Then, without warning or explanation, they received their first assignment, patrol duty in the Scorpius Void, a desolate region between spiral arms known for its lack of resource-rich planets or strategic value. "They're sidelining us," Security Chief Volkov observed as they studied the mission parameters. "Sending us where we can't cause trouble." Elena nodded. "Or where we can't show off our improvements to other species." The Scorpius Void was essentially empty space, the perfect place to forget about the embarrassing humans and their unexpectedly capable vessel. But Elena recognized the opportunity hidden within the insult. The isolation would give them time to further explore the DRE's capabilities without scrutiny. 2 days into their journey toward the Void, Dr. Okoro requested an urgent meeting with the command staff. "I've been studying the data from our test runs," she explained. Her usual measured tone quickened with excitement. "The DRE doesn't just affect our ship's systems. It's creating microscopic ruptures in space-time itself." She displayed a holographic model showing the fabric of reality around the ship, with tiny fluctuations appearing and disappearing like bubbles in boiling water. "These ruptures are temporary and harmless at current power levels," Adana continued. "But they suggest something profound. The DRE isn't just bending physics. It's temporarily accessing adjacent dimensional spaces." Lieutenant Chen leaned forward, brow furrowed. "Adjacent dimensions, like parallel universes?" "Not exactly," Adana replied. "More like spaces where physical laws operate differently. The DRE is borrowing properties from these spaces and applying them locally." Elena considered the implications. Could we scale this effect? Create larger ruptures? "Theoretically, yes," Adana said cautiously. "But we don't know what's on the other side of those ruptures, or what might come through them." The potential was too significant to ignore, but Elena understood the risks. They established strict protocols for DRE experimentation, with emergency shutdown procedures and constant monitoring for any anomalies. Their arrival in the Scorpius Void coincided with a critical breakthrough. By modulating the DRE's output frequency, they could control the specific physical constants being altered. This fine-tuning allowed them to optimize different systems for different tasks, making the hull nearly invulnerable during defensive operations, enhancing weapons efficiency during offensive maneuvers, or maximizing sensor range for exploration. The ship was evolving beyond its original design constraints, becoming something new, something that shouldn't be possible according to conventional Federation science. 3 months into their exile, the emergency beacon activated, a distress signal from a Federation science vessel, the Tellerus, caught in a quantum filament storm, a rare but deadly phenomenon where strands of highly energetic particles tear through space, shredding anything in their path. "We're the only ship within range," Navigation Officer Patel reported. "Maximum speed," Elena ordered. "Prepare rescue protocols." The CSS-117 surged forward, its modified engines pushing it beyond design specifications. They arrived to find the Tellerus listing badly, its hull breached in multiple locations, surrounded by the shimmering tendrils of the quantum filament storm. "That ship has minutes at most," Chen reported grimly. "Conventional shields won't hold against those filaments," added Volkov. Elena turned to Adana. "The DRE. Can we extend its field around the Tellerus?" "At that distance, the power requirements would be enormous," Adana warned. "And we've never attempted to project the field externally." "Calculate what we need," Elena ordered. "Lieutenant Chen, prepare to redirect all non-essential power to the DRE." The bridge erupted into activity as the crew executed their orders. The CSS-117 maneuvered as close as possible to the stricken vessel, positioning itself between the Tellerus and the approaching filaments. DRE at maximum capacity, Adana reported. Attempting field projection now. The ship shuddered as energy coursed through systems never designed to channel such power. On the view screen, a translucent bubble expanded from the CSS-117, gradually encompassing the damaged Tellerus. Field stabilizing, Adana announced. Physical constants within the bubble are being altered to disperse the filament energy. The quantum filaments struck the field's edge and dissipated, their energy patterns disrupted by the altered laws of physics within the DRE's influence. "It's working," Chen exclaimed. "Begin evacuation of the Tellerus," Alina ordered. "Let's get those scientists aboard before our luck runs out." The rescue operation proceeded with remarkable efficiency. The Tellerus carried 16 scientists, Vexari, Zentari, and several other Federation species, all of whom watched with undisguised awe as they were brought aboard the ship they'd once mocked. As the last scientist was evacuated, the DRE's power indicators began flashing critical warnings. "The field is becoming unstable," Adana reported urgently. "Power fluctuations throughout the system." "Shut it down," Alina ordered. "I'm trying," Adana replied, her fingers flying across the controls. "Something's happening. The ruptures are growing." The space around the ship rippled visibly, reality itself distorting like fabric caught in a strong wind. The DRE's core pulsed with blinding light, its energy readings exceeding all previous measurements. "It's not shutting down," Adana shouted over the alarm klaxons. "It's evolving." Through the view screen, they watched as the quantum filament storm changed direction, drawn toward their ship like iron filings to a magnet. But instead of striking the hull, the filaments circled the vessel, forming a swirling vortex of energy. "The DRE is absorbing the filament energy," Adana realized. "It's incorporating new patterns into its matrix." The ship shuddered one final time. And then everything stopped. The alarms silenced. The shaking ceased. The energy vortex disappeared. In its place was something impossible. Where empty space had existed moments before, a swirling portal now hung suspended, its edges defined by crystalline structures similar to the DRE's containment system, but on a massive scale. "What is that?" Elena whispered. Before Adana could respond, their communication system activated, a Federation priority signal from the Council itself. Commander Reyes, Tholmach's voice held none of its previous condescension. "Our sensors detect a dimensional anomaly at your position. Explain immediately." Elena glanced at Adana, who nodded slowly. "Ambassador Tholmach, we've experienced an unexpected interaction between our ship systems and the quantum filament storm. The result appears to be a stable dimensional aperture." Silence stretched for several seconds before Tholmach responded. "That's impossible. The technology to create stable dimensional gates has eluded the Federation for centuries." "Nevertheless," Elena replied calmly, "we're looking at one right now." Another voice joined the communication, older, deeper. "This is High Counselor Vexteril. The CSS-117 is hereby ordered to maintain position. A scientific delegation will arrive within 12 hours to assess the situation." After the communication ended, Elena turned to her crew. "Opinions?" "They're afraid," Volkov said bluntly. "They gave us their garbage, and we've done what their best scientists couldn't accomplish in centuries." "The portal appears stable," Adana reported, studying her readings. "The DRE has synchronized with it, creating a feedback loop that maintains the dimensional breach." "Can we control it?" Elena asked. "I believe so," Adana replied. "Preliminary readings suggest it leads to a space similar to our own, but with subtle differences in physical laws. Exactly the kind of variance the DRE has been manipulating on a small scale." Elena made her decision. "Prepare a probe. Let's see what's on the other side before our Federation friends arrive." The probe's telemetry revealed something extraordinary, a region of space where faster-than-light travel required a fraction of the energy used in normal space, where radiation that would be deadly in their universe was harmless, where resources considered rare and precious were abundant. It's a gateway to post-scarcity, Adana breathed. With access to this space, energy limitations, resource constraints, they'd be obsolete. By the time the Federation delegation arrived, Alina had prepared her position carefully. The rescued scientists, grateful for their salvation, stood alongside the human crew as witnesses to what had transpired. The Federation officials boarded with a mixture of trepidation and poorly concealed avarice. High Counselor Vex Terrell himself led the delegation, his ancient eyes fixed on the portal visible through the viewscreen. "An impressive accident, Commander Reyes," he said, attempting to sound dismissive. "The Federation will now assume control of this phenomenon for proper scientific study." Elena smiled politely. "With respect, High Counselor, this portal was created by human innovation using technology your people discarded as worthless. Its control mechanisms are integrated with our ship's unique systems. Any attempt to forcibly separate them could collapse the portal and tear a hole in space-time in the process." The implied threat hung in the air between them. "What do you propose?" Vex Terrell asked finally. "A renegotiation of Earth's status in the Federation," Elena replied. "Full membership, not provisional. Equal access to Federation technology and resources, and recognition of humanity's sovereign right to the technology we've developed." Vex Terrell's expression remained unreadable. "And in exchange, we share access to the dimensional space and collaborate on further research into the technology." The negotiations lasted for days, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Federation needed what humanity had accidentally discovered, and humanity needed the Federation's resources to fully explore the potential. 6 months later, the CSS-117, now officially renamed the TSV Prometheus, led a joint Human Federation scientific expedition through the dimensional portal. Commander Reyes stood on the bridge, watching as their fleet of research vessels entered the shimmering gateway. "They still don't fully trust us," Volkov observed quietly, nodding toward the Federation observers stationed throughout the ship. "Trust has to be earned," Elena replied, "just like respect." Dr. Okoro joined them, her expression thoughtful. "The dimensional resonance engine was never a coincidence, you know. I've been researching its origin. It dates back to the original construction of this ship, designed by a species called the Precursors who vanished 10,000 years ago." "You think they knew what it could do?" Elena asked. "I think they built it as a key," Adana replied. "A test. They left these engines scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting for species evolved enough to recognize their potential." Elena considered this as they passed through the portal's threshold, reality distorting around them before resolving into new patterns, new possibilities. "If that's true," she said finally, "then the Federation didn't give us their worst ship after all." "No," Adana agreed. "They gave us exactly the right one. They just didn't know it." The Prometheus emerged into a universe where the rules were different, where human ingenuity could reshape reality itself. Behind them, the Federation followed, no longer laughing at the cosmic underdogs who had taken their rust bucket and broken the universe with it. The end.